Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Samantha Heathwood.
Good afternoon. Our top stories on 7. The southeast hit by torrential rains, flash flooding, homes threatened and evacuation centres opened. We have the latest. The southeast sees in the new year numbers down for the fireworks, but plenty of partying, only a few taking things too far. Howard government cabinet documents released, but the Iraq war decision-making remains under seal. And Australia's Princess Mary to sit on the Danish throne following Queen Margrethe's abdication. Good afternoon. The Gold Coast and the hinterland are reeling this afternoon as New Year's Day brings serious flooding. Parts of the region still dealing with the Christmas Day tornado have now been battered by torrential rains. Michelle Jensen, it's an unfolding emergency on the Gold Coast.
Sam, you can see how much water there is here at Oxenford where the weir is raging. So it's not taking a lot of rain to cause flash flooding, and it is again torrential now. The SES has received 500 calls for help, and help is soon on the way for them, with backup teams soon to arrive from interstate. Homes have flooded, drivers have needed rescuing from cars. The worst hit areas have been in Logan, the northern parts of the Gold Coast and the Gold Coast hinterland. Streets have gone under, residents in some parts are now cut off. The amount of rain that has fallen is just phenomenal. 480 millimetres was recorded in 24 hours at Currumbin Creek. More than 200 millimetres of rain in the hinterland. Let's listen to Mayor Tom Tate.
We're open evacuation centres. The two areas are Nerang Bicentennial Community Centre and Coomera Indoor Sports Centre. So from 3 p.m. onwards, they are a place for some domestic pets.
It's a particularly difficult time for families whose homes were affected in the Christmas Day tornado. They now have leaking roofs and their homes are unlivable. We spoke to one couple who spent last night sheltering in their car, feeling safer there than in their own home. More than 6,000 properties are still without power, and this rain is only hampering those recovery efforts. The worst may still be yet to come. The Gold Coast has been warned this rain may not let up until tomorrow afternoon or even Wednesday, Sam.
Michelle Jensen at Oxenford, thank you. Well, now to Tony Auden, and warnings have just been upgraded.
Yes, Sam, it is all ramping up again. A severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued, mentioning very dangerous flash flooding around Beenleigh and Mount Tamborine. As we jump to the radar, there is still a lot of rain falling right across the region here at the moment. A few totals over 100 millimetres for the northern Gold Coast since 9 a.m, and the heaviest rain is still falling from the southern border through the Gold Coast and up to areas south of Logan. A separate area of rain also starting to push onto the Sunshine Coast too. Looking ahead, much the same for the next few hours, then we could see another spike in that intensity from about 9 or 10 p.m, likely lasting through the night. In this time, we could see further falls up around 200 or 250 millimetres in some spots, but not everywhere. Now, there's some guidance that rain could ease a little bit or clear north towards the Sunshine Coast into tomorrow afternoon, as we've heard. Now, we still have a severe weather warning mentioning that risk of heavy rainfall right across the southeast, and a flood watch is also current that extends up towards the Capricornia. Sam, I'll be back soon with the latest.
It's ominous. Thank you, Tony. Well, a short time ago, Emergency Management Minister Nikki Boyd gave an update on this developing weather situation. Here's some of what she had to say.
We have seen rapid rise and falls in our catchments, and we know that it's likely that we'll be receiving between 100 and 180 millimetres more rain from Gympie down to the border in the next 24 hours. In some predictions, that could be as high as 250 millimetres. We've got evacuation centres that have been set up in Nerang, Coomera and Tamborine Mountain. Emergency services and volunteers are out on the ground, and presently we have over 500 deployed. We've been moving campers out of 3 campgrounds onto higher ground during this event. We've got emergency support that has seen 10 rescues occur since 6 a.m. this morning. Since Christmas, SES has received over 4,000 phone calls. 460 of those phone calls has occurred in the last 24 hours. We know that this event poses danger to the community. We're seeing a rapid onset of rainfalls and the catchments are already quite saturated. So we know that rainfall throughout the region will mean heavy rise of water and potential flooding, putting communities at risk. I'll hand over now to our State Coordinator of Recovery, Shane Schleppi.
Thank you, Minister. Good afternoon. As the State Disaster Coordinator, I can brief that we have had significant rainfall overnight. Currumbin Creek, we've received approximately 571 millimetres, 351 millimetres at Upper Springbrook, 161 millimetres at Mount Tamborine, and over 375 millimetres near Pimpama. As the Minister's indicated, over the next 24 hours, we're expected to see intense rainfall between Gympie and the New South Wales border, and in some instances we can see up to 250 millimetres of rainfall in the next 24-hour period.
Well, drizzle kept partiers inside in Brisbane overnight, with just over half the expected number of revellers braving the weather to take in the fireworks. Jordan Bissell, it was a wild night on the Gold Coast.
That's right, Sam. While police say there were only a handful of arrests on the glitter strip, partygoers were hauled away in handcuffs, beginning 2024 in a cell as police tried to control the crowds on Surfers Paradise Esplanade. These wild scenes were caught on camera.
Move. If you don't move, I'm going to arrest you, you understand?
Choppy conditions also saw the fireworks barge off Surfers Paradise Beach being tossed around by the rough seas. By contrast, it was a much quieter night here in Brisbane, some usually packed vantage points looking a little less busy than on previous New Year's. Just 7 arrests were reported despite nightclubs in Fortitude Valley still kicking on at 4:30 this morning. Police say 100,000 people were expected to make their way out to watch the fireworks, but only 60,000 made the trip due to the weather. We'll have more on how Queensland and the world rang in the new year at 7 News tonight at 6 o'clock, Sam.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, police suspect there are no suspicious circumstances surrounding the death of a 2-year-old girl west of Mackay. The little girl was found in a car outside Yungala yesterday afternoon. Family members performed CPR until paramedics arrived, but she could not be saved. The National Archive has today released cabinet documents from the Howard government in 2003, but there's little about the decision to go to war with Iraq. Those submissions and discussions remain sealed from public view.
The Iraq War has captured the minds and imaginations of movie makers for the best part of 2 decades.
The thing that haunts me are all the guys that I couldn't save.
Hollywood illustrating the very real horrors of a war that dominated the world stage for almost 9 years. This was 2003. The bloody and brutal invasion in the Middle East had a firm grip on Australian politics. The perceived threat of weapons of mass destruction driving decision-making at the time.
So there was a feeling of, I wouldn't say out of control, but we didn't know whether, was Australia about to be attacked?
After 9/11 and the Bali bombings, Australia joined the US at war.
Slightly unnerving because you don't know what the future holds and where that thread might lead.
The UN Secretary-General deemed the invasion illegal.
War must always be a last resort.
These are the cabinet documents from 2003, 20 years old, and only made public today.
And these records in particular, I think, are important just purely because of what was occurring both within Australia and around the world at the time.
Australia sent troops despite nationwide protests and without a cabinet submission on the costs and benefits of going to war.
Howard wants the issue to be handled by himself, so he makes these oral submissions. It was being discussed in granular detail by the National Security Committee.
The mastermind behind the reign of terror, Saddam Hussein, captured in December that year.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Every moment beamed into homes.
For President Bush, Saddam's arrest was completion of a job started by his father 12 years ago.
But weapons of mass destruction were never found.
I suspect he'd actually got rid of them.
There's a lot missing from these records. Documents from the National Security Committee haven't been made public, and that's where former Prime Minister John Howard made some of his biggest decisions regarding the war. The contents of 32 meetings and 206 submissions shrouded in secrecy.
At the moment, we don't hold any of those records from the 2003 period.
The long-term consequences of the war more clear.
I thought it was the wrong decision, that it would lead to disaster, and I think after the very quick victory over Saddam, it did turn out badly for America in subsequent years.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
Breast cancer research is set to benefit after a big announcement from a cricket great. It's hoped huge crowds will attend Sydney's Pink Test to see David Warner in his final home match, raising even more money for the vital cause. Chris Marr has more.
Well, a major shock on the eve of this week's Test match between Australia and Pakistan. Opener David Warner has announced it will be his last in the baggy green. David Warner has made the announcement that this 112th Test match will be his final one. He's also announced his retirement from one-day internationals. The opener has revealed he had planned to retire earlier, ahead of the Lord's Test in England, but changed his mind. Describing himself as the boy from a housing commission background, he's surprised himself, he said, by reaching the pinnacle of the game. A player who has sometimes divided opinion, David Warner says, is always given his best for his country and considers himself a leader in the Australian dressing room.
I know there's a Champions Trophy coming up, and, you know, look, if I'm playing decent cricket still in 2 years' time and I'm around and, you know, they need someone, I'm going to be available.
Warner's announcement coming immediately after the launch of the Pink Test, raising money for breast cancer. Founder and former Australian fast bowler Glenn McGrath paid tribute to Warner.
I love seeing sports people go out and play without fear, and I think he does that, and I think here it'd be great to see him go out, finish on a high, do well for him and for the team.
David Warner says he'll now concentrate on T20 cricket and his growing career in the commentary box.
Tributes for Olympian Melissa Dennis, allegedly hit and killed by husband Rowan Dennis. The latest details next. Plus, Brisbane's tallest residential tower evacuated. And the new restrictions for tourists visiting Venice. In 7 News, flooding emergency, an unexpected New Year deluge on the Gold Coast. Roads cut, drivers rescued, campers stranded and homes inundated. Also tonight, when Australia's Mary will become Danish Queen. And Queensland and the world farewell 2023. 7 News at 6. Hundreds of people were evacuated from the Brisbane Sky Tower this morning when a fire broke out. The blaze was sparked by an e-scooter on the 64th floor. It was quickly contained. Residents were allowed back in after about an hour. The husband of former Olympic cyclist Melissa Hoskins has been charged with her death. As Hannah Ford reports, cycling legend Anna Meares has led tributes to Hoskins.
Police are still investigating exactly what led up to the crash here on this leafy street on Saturday night that left Melissa Hoskins dead and her husband, Rowan Dennis, facing serious charges. The cycling world is reeling after hearing the shocking news. Track cycling great and former Olympic teammate Anna Meares posting, "This is a very difficult time. Rest in peace, Mel." While from Oz Cycling, Melissa, a mother, daughter and wife, was also a champion cyclist who thrilled and inspired us on the track and road. Her former manager broke down after speaking to 7 News on the phone, saying the 32-year-old was one of a kind, a hardened athlete, but one of the most caring friends anyone could have.
I don't think I have cried so hard and so loud for so long in all my life. It's probably the most shocking news I've ever received.
Police say former world champion Rowan Dennis was driving the car that hit Melissa on Saturday night. She was struck just a few hundred metres from the couple's multi-million-dollar home. The couple had recently returned from travelling overseas and just a week ago shared this happy photo of their young family at Christmas. Dennis is currently on police bail charged with death by dangerous driving. He'll face court in March.
Fireworks may have lit up the night sky to celebrate the new year around the world, but over the Gaza Strip it was several flares. The yellow specks of light could be seen far and wide as Israel continues its bombardment of the enclave. Since fighting began, the Palestinian death toll has almost reached 22,000, according to the Hamas Health Ministry. From June, Venice will ban tourist groups of more than 25 people and outlaw loudspeakers. The city is trying to minimise problems caused by mass tourism to protect residents from noise and nuisance. Venice has fewer than 50,000 permanent residents. Bombshell abdication after the break, Australians' own Princess Mary to become Queen of Denmark. And in sport, David Warner's shock call, days out from his SCG swan song. Australia's own Princess Mary is about to become the Queen of Denmark. In a televised address, Queen Margrethe's stunning announcement that she'll soon abdicate. Hugh Whitfeld reports.
A surprise, but not necessarily perhaps a shock for the Danish people. Queen Margrethe has been suffering from health problems over the last 12 months, undergoing back surgery in February of 2023. The Queen leaving it until 11 minutes into her annual New Year's Eve televised address to drop this bombshell.
I have decided that now is the right time. On the 14th of January 2024, 52 years after I succeeded my beloved father, I will step down as Queen of Denmark. I will hand over the throne to my son, Crown Prince Frederik.
So Crown Prince Frederik will become King Frederik X of Denmark, and his Australian-born wife will be Queen Mary of Denmark 20 years after their fairy tale wedding on the 14th of May 2004 in Copenhagen. It will end the 52-year reign of Queen Margrethe, who's been very popular right across Denmark, the longest-serving monarch in Europe following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. There won't be a big coronation like for King Charles here in London. Instead, the announcement will be made from Amalienborg Palace in Copenhagen on the 14th of January, and it will be so. Frederik will be king and Mary will be queen. Mary, 51 years old, 4 children, of course. Prince Christian recently assuming a number of royal roles after his 18th birthday, and it completes her destiny for the last 2 decades, and that for Prince Frederik since his birth.
Let's have a quick look at sport. Happy New Year, Ben.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Sam. Happy New Year, everyone. G'day. Retiring Test opener David Warner has revealed his one-day career is also coming to a close. The 37-year-old believes Australia's World Cup win in India was the perfect one-day swan song. Still, the door remains open for a return in the 2025 Champions Trophy.
Look, if I'm playing decent cricket still in 2 years' time and I'm around and, they need someone, I'm going to be available.
Warner also insists he has no regrets from his career when asked about the 2018 ball tampering scandal.
You're going to have a lot of hurdles that you have to jump. There's going to be obstacles in the way, but you have to move forward, and I've done that with dignity. I've come back and I've got a lot of passion for the game.
The opener's final test is Wednesday when Australia take on Pakistan. It's live here on 7. Well, tonight's Heat 6's Gabbers clash is at the mercy of Mother Nature. Right now, the Thunder are unravelling against the Hurricanes in Hobart. Brain fades cost 2 early wickets, then Cameron Bancroft's return to sender.
Catch taken. Good catch. 3 down for the Thunder.
The visitors are currently 7 for 119 with 3 overs remaining, while last night in Adelaide, the Stars shone despite a dose of Linsanity. Chasing 205 courtesy of Chris Lynn's unbeaten 83, Melbourne pulled off a record run chase to leapfrog his strikers into 4th. Marcus Stoinis led the charge with a 19-ball half-century. And after months on the sidelines, Naomi Osaka and Rafael Nadal are finally back playing tennis. 2-time Australian Open champ Osaka cruised past Tamara Korpach in her Brisbane International opener this morning. Osaka hasn't played since September 22 due to mental health issues and the birth of her daughter Shia in July.
The last couple years that I played, I didn't return as much love as I was given, so I really feel like that's what I want to do in this chapter.
Rafa lost his first match since last year's Australian Open, a doubles defeat to Aussie duo Jordan Thompson and Max Purcell. In the United Cup, Novak Djokovic was in the firing line but led Serbia to a win over China minutes from midnight.
How about it we celebrate the new year together? You stay a few minutes.
Yeah, good on him. The crowd helping Serbia ring in the new year. Sam, the cricket is on at this moment at the Gabba. We'll find out if it's still the same at 6.
Sounds pretty good. Thank you, Ben. Well, it's time to look at what's coming up in 7 News at 6, and we'll have the very latest on the unfolding situation on the Gold Coast. We're live to our crews right across the region and the warning that Mother Nature isn't done yet. Also, how Brisbane celebrated the new year. We have all the colour from a spectacular fireworks show. And a celebrity coach shares her tips on how you can set goals for a healthier 2024. Let's bring in Amanda now to see what's coming up on the Gold Coast News at 5:30. And it's not been the start to the year anyone wanted.
No, that's right, Sam. We were already reeling from the Christmas storm, and as you mentioned, now we've got flooding to contend with. Tonight, our dramatic rescue as campers are caught by fast-rising waters. Just one of many close calls here on the coast today. Plus, it's been a big New Year's Eve. Some partied a little too hard for police. We've got pictures of the wild scenes in Surfers Paradise. Sam, there'll be a few revellers with some New Year's regrets, I suspect, this afternoon.
I think so. Thanks, Amanda. Our Gold Coast viewers are off to the chase now. Then join Amanda for your local news at 5:30. And, of course, make sure to tune in for 7 News at 6 o'clock. For the rest of Queensland, back to the flood zone, we have the most up-to-date information live. A truckie charged with causing a deadly train derailment. And after the weather, we head overseas to see how the rest of the world is ringing in the new year.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Samantha Heathwood.
Welcome back. Making news this Monday, the southeast has been hit again with an unexpected deluge smashing the Gold Coast. More than a dozen people needed rescuing when floodwaters rose rapidly, stranding them in cars, homes and campgrounds. We'll have more on this shortly. The wet weather kept partygoers away in Brisbane, with just over half the expected number of revellers braving the weather to take in the fireworks. Denmark's Queen is stepping down from the throne after more than 5 decades. It will see Australian-born Princess Mary become Queen in 2 weeks. Well, back to the developing flood situation in the southeast. Ned Balm is live from Pimpama. Ned, swift water crews have been kept busy today.
Yeah, they certainly have, Sam. From the get-go this morning, they were on their toes. Even this morning on Helensvale Road, they had to respond to a bus stuck in floodwaters. 3 people had to be plucked to safety from there. The driver of this car in Clagrabar, just up in the hinterland, well, they had to be rescued just before floodwaters swept their car away. And as the rain, as the deluge moved further north, well, so did the first responders. This caravan ended up in the Albert River not once but twice after its tow line broke as they were attempting to get it out the first time.
We've had multiple cars in water with people stuck on the roofs in different locations. We've had people rescued from a campsite, total of 12 people rescued there.
And Sam, the message again is that many of these incidences could have been easily avoided. If it's flooded, of course, forget it. Tonight at 6, we'll hear more about how this deluge has impacted these suburbs north of the Gold Coast, and we'll also hear from some of those resilient residents that were in the destruction line of these storms last week. We'll see how they're faring. That's tonight at 6.
Ned Balm at Pimpama, thank you. Well, emergency authorities gave a briefing a short time ago on the flood emergency, saying they're reaching out to the Commonwealth Government for additional help. State Disaster Coordinator Shane Shalepi saying the emergency is far from over.
Over the next 24 hours, we're expected to see intense rainfall between Gympie and the New South Wales border. And in some instances, we can see up to 250 millimetres of rainfall in the next 24-hour period. What we are seeing is rapid rising of floodwaters when we have intense rainfall dropping in quite small areas. And we've seen that today right across the Gold Coast, Scenic Rim, Logan and Greater Brisbane area. Most of our responses today have been around rescuing of people entering water, but in particular we've had 3 campgrounds that we've provided evacuation and rescue support to. One at Natural Bridge, where we had approximately 150 people there requiring assistance to move to higher ground. One at Sarah Campground, where we had approximately 130 persons in that location, and one at Thunderbird Park up near Mount Tamborine, where we were required to assist people to higher ground over top of the mountain. We still have approximately 15 campers in those locations. Today we've issued 7 emergency alerts, and as well as our public information messaging and alerts through our Australian warning system, both through our local disaster management groups and our state disaster coordination centre. And those alerts have hit over 681,000 messages to our community. The key issue, can I say this morning, is the weather is dangerous. We were speaking with Energex Queensland this morning. They were able to reconnect approximately 1,000 homes on the Gold Coast area, as well as installing some large generators onto our network this morning. But from mid-morning, they've advised me as the State Disaster Coordinator that they've had to stand their crews down due to the dangerous conditions. These are dangerous conditions we're dealing with. We are seeing floodwater rising rapidly, isolating houses, isolating communities very quickly. We're seeing landslides occurring on our roadways. We're seeing washouts. And unfortunately, we're still seeing people driving into those waters.
To other news, a South Australian truck driver faces court tomorrow, charged with killing 2 rail workers in a horrific derailment in the state's outback. A giant crane is clearing the scene, but the work will take days. Tom Johnson reports.
Cranes were brought here on the Barrier Highway to begin the arduous task of cleaning up the wreckage. A 75-year-old truck driver from Queensland who was transporting avocados has been charged with causing death by dangerous driving. The crash derailed the train on the Barrier Highway 100 kilometres from Broken Hill. Its 2 drivers, 57-year-old Kevin Baker and 48-year-old Mick Warren, both from Port Augusta, were killed. South Australian and New South Wales police have been working together at the scene, while transport safety specialists are also investigating.
The Barrier Highway remains closed and it will do for some time. It's a complex scene.
Police say the road surface has been damaged and will need to pass an inspection before being reopened. Traffic between Broken Hill and Adelaide is being diverted through Mildura, adding around 2 hours to the drive. The train's operator, Pacific National, says the incident has had a profound impact on the organisation. The man charged did not apply for bail. He'll face court in Port Pirie tomorrow.
Queensland's 2023 road toll is in, with 277 people killed on the state's roads last year. Police say they're already fearful for this year, with wet weather lashing the southeast.
If you are riding a motorcycle and you intend on continuing to ride a motorcycle into 2024, we'd ask that you use extreme caution.
The last fatality of the year was a 20-year-old woman killed in a ute crash near Warwick last night. An extravaganza was promised and Sydney's New Year's Eve delivered. At midnight, the harbour was the envy of the world. There were stunning shows right across the country too, as the night sky sparkled.
The greatest show on earth, greater than ever before. Midnight in Sydney and the harbour city sparkled in an explosion of light and colour. 1 million people lining the foreshore to watch the dazzling display, joined by more than 400 million people tuning in around the world. Australia becoming one of the first in the world to welcome 2024. The pyrotechnic marvel including a world first, with AI used to light up the landmarks. A 12-minute extravaganza capped by a crowd favourite, a fireworks waterfall off the Harbour Bridge. Not to be outdone, Melbourne's skyline erupted. All eyes on the sky for a stunning display that just could not be missed. And an unforgettable show for those brave enough to stay up past bedtime. In Brisbane, South Bank Parklands was the place to be. The Sunshine State shining brightly. Clear summer skies, the perfect backdrop to ring in the new year.
It was the best ever. It was absolutely spectacular. It was absolutely amazing. They definitely upped their game this year.
In Adelaide, the party was in full swing as families flocked to Glenelg Beach. Fireworks launched from the pier, a showstopper. And at Adelaide Oval, Glenn Maxwell delivered fireworks of his own, just in time for the family fireworks.
I think Maxie's the one in charge of the trigger.
Perth may have been the final Aussie city to welcome the new year. The early fireworks at Elizabeth Quay gave a taste of what was to come. And the main event was well worth the wait. The midnight fireworks display setting the city's skyline ablaze as Australia toasted the start to 2024.
Happy New Year!
Zoe Martin, 7 News.
An attempted hijacking on the Red Sea. Houthi boats taken down. Also tributes for a titan of journalism. We remember John Pilger. And the young cyclist circling Australia to help a neighbour in need.
As the day breaks,
the news breaks on Sunrise.
The unfolding fire emergency. Breaking news, the Middle East is at flashpoint.
Start with what's unfolding.
The winds have picked up massively.
Start with the team Australia trusts.
One of the biggest issues that's facing the country at the moment.
Start with Sunrise.
American forces have killed a number of Iranian-backed militants as they attempted to storm a container ship in the Red Sea. A US-led task force has been protecting commercial shipping in the area after a string of attacks by Houthi rebels.
Vessels along one of the world's busiest shipping lanes have been under attack now for more than a month. Yemen's Houthi rebels have previously warned they are targeting ships in the Red Sea in response to the war in Gaza. US warships, part of a global naval task force, were already poised to prevent further attacks. In the early hours, when Houthi rebels got within metres of boarding this ship, they responded to a distress call. And after being fired upon, they sank 3 boats, killing the crews. A 4th boat escaped. The Iranian-backed rebel group claims its attacks are directed at vessels linked to Israel. America says the ship is registered to Singapore and owned and operated by a Danish firm. The rebels say their attacks in the Red Sea will continue until this ends in Gaza. The Health Ministry say more than 21,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's offensive, which began after Hamas's attack 12 weeks ago. It has left thousands facing starvation, but Israel says it is now ready to let ships bring aid to Gaza's shores immediately as part of a proposed sea corridor from Cyprus.
Australian journalist John Pilger has died in London, aged 84. The campaigner and filmmaker was famous for his documentaries and won numerous awards, including an Emmy and a BAFTA. He was an outspoken critic of Western foreign policy and a high-profile supporter of Julian Assange. His family announced his passing on social media, saying his work was celebrated around the world. In the US, 4 people have been killed and a house has been reduced to splinters by a powerful explosion. Residents kilometres away heard and felt the blast.
I went face down on the ground and covered the back of my head, and the whole house shook.
Debris has been found almost 2 kilometres from the scene. The cause of the explosion is still under investigation. 2 Australian teenagers are about to ride around the country raising money to build a school in East Timor. Jacqueline Stanley has the story.
Yes, 2 teenage boys gearing up for a massive trip around the country. Leo and Cesare are here with me now. And Cesare, how are the nerves?
Yeah, very, very nervous that haven't organised everything, but yeah, it's going to be a real adventure. We're trying to see as many Australian bird species as possible in a calendar year, and we're also raising money to build a school in Timor-Leste. For $100,000, we can fundraise a fully complete school building project that includes running water facilities, sanitation for kids, new classrooms that are adequate for teaching. 90% of the schools in Timor were destroyed during the Indonesian occupation, and it's an incredible opportunity for really high impact sort of fundraising. It's only an hour away from Darwin in Australia, and we're really excited to go over there when we make it to Darwin.
And Leo, how are the legs feeling? How has the fitness preparation been?
Yeah, so kind of fitness, we'll see, I think. I haven't been training much, but I feel like I've carried over some fitness, so hopefully we'll be all right.
And how's the fitness feeling for you?
I think it'll be more of a mental test than anything. Leo, a couple months ago, did a 360-kilometre ride from Fitzroy to Pyramid Hill. But recently I've done a 200-kilometre ride to get home for Christmas from work. So I think it'll definitely be a test of the legs, but more so a mental test to get through some of the long stretches across the Nullarbor and in Western Australia.
And we have both of the mums here. How are you feeling ahead of the trip?
Very nervous, but also excited for them and proud.
Absolutely, yeah, really happy that they're doing something so adventurous, but also such a great cause to be supporting for Timor-Leste.
Congratulations, guys. Well done. Back to you.
The clock has only just struck midnight for some. Next, the New Year's celebration still underway around the globe. And torrential rain for parts of the southeast today. This is a look at Brisbane right now, where it's 23 degrees. Tony has all the weather details next. In 7 News, flooding emergency, an unexpected New Year deluge on the Gold Coast. Roads cut, drivers rescued, campers stranded and homes inundated. Also tonight, when Australia's Mary will become Danish Queen. And Queensland and the world farewell 2023. 7 News at 6.
Good afternoon, you're watching 7 News. Checking in the weather now, and torrential rain has fallen on parts of the Gold Coast overnight and today, with a significant flood and flash flood risk remaining this afternoon. Currumbin Creek has now picked up over 570 millimetres of rain in the past day. At the moment, rain across the Gold Coast hinterland here. The risk of dangerous flash flooding is most likely between about Coomera and Beaudesert. Rain is also developing on the Sunshine Coast. A severe weather warning is current right across the southeast, mentioning that risk of further flash flooding as we go. Riverine flooding is also a concern, and flood watches are current, extending up towards the Capricornia. Now looking ahead, more rain on the way as humid winds just keep on feeding into an upper trough sitting over southern parts of Queensland. That should start to weaken from late tomorrow. Around the capitals tomorrow, stormy in Canberra, Sydney warms up to 29 degrees and dry tops of 30 for Perth and Adelaide. For northern Queensland, a light shower possible around Cairns, Townsville and Mackay, with the odd storm further inland on the ranges, and a heat wave warning remains current for Cape York Peninsula and the far west. In the south, a flood watch for all of those eastern catchments. Afternoon storms most likely around the Wide Bay and Capricornia, some rain in around Gympie and Maryborough. Now, across the southeast, please be careful on the roads. More rain areas, storms bringing those pockets of heavy rain and flash flooding, likely peaking overnight, then easing late tomorrow, but heavy rain is possible at any time. Tops in the mid to high 20s. Sam, things are changing quickly. I'll have all the latest coming up at 6.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tony. Well, fireworks continue to light up skies across the globe as countries welcome 2024. A short time ago, New York City was among the last. Jacqueline Robson takes a look at how the world is celebrating.
Well, one of the world's biggest New Year parties is underway, with people packing into Times Square to welcome in 2024. 1 million people have spent hours waiting for this moment. The ball dropping in front of the largest crowd New York has seen since 2019. Revellers celebrating under a sea of confetti, with messages of hope for the new year written on each piece. Across the globe, skies glittered with light displays. London's Big Ben sounding midnight, as the city's landmarks were shrouded by bursts of colour. In Dubai, a spectacle from the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, beaming from every angle. Hong Kong claiming its largest light show ever. And in Tokyo, lanterns dotted the night sky. No relief for war-torn Gaza. Skyscrapers in Tel Aviv lit up yellow in support of hostages still missing. While in Kenya, celebrations turned to panic after a high-rise caught fire from the light show. Athens ushered in the new year with fireworks flaring over ancient landmarks. Paris partying into 2024, the City of Lights living up to its name. These final countries marking midnight will likely see celebrations carry on for some time yet. Well, that's Queensland's 4 p.m. news for this Monday. Join us back here for 7 News at 6. I'm Samantha Heathwood. See you tomorrow.